Hi everyone, thank you for coming out. Tonight we are going to cover all of the ins and outs on the home buying process, the do's and the don'ts, the costs that are involved, the different government programs that are available to you, what the market is doing right now, and why having an experienced, competent realtor is absolutely critical to what kind of home buying experience you're going to have. And before we get started, if I could ask everyone for a huge favor, if you could share this event on your timeline, I would really appreciate it. The tips that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight, I would like to cover the 3 biggest mistakes that most home buyers and even experienced home buyers make that usually ends up costing you thousands and thousands of dollars. And in my opinion, leads to such a poor perception of realtors by the general home buying and home selling public. But before that, let's look at the profile of a typical home buyer in 2020, because tonight we are going to focus on the home buying process. First-time home buyers actually make up about 33% of all home buyers. So the majority of home buyers are actually people that own a home right now, and either they're selling into something bigger or they're downsizing. And the typical home buyer is actually 47 years old, and the median income is about $93,000 a year. They're doing pretty well. The average house that is sold on the MLS is about 1,900 square feet. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms seems to be what people really like. And the average age is about 20 years old. And this is the one that we're going to really talk about tonight, is that 84% of home buyers, their first step that they take is actually they start looking for homes. Understand what could be the pitfalls of looking for a home first, because when I bought my first home, that's what I did. I didn't understand the process, and I didn't understand that the realtor selling the home was working for the seller. And that is something that you really have to wrap your head around. Yes, it's a great house. You're really interested in that house, but who is that realtor really working for? Well, they're working for the seller. And if they're working for the seller, they're going to highlight the home in the best possible way. I can't tell you how many deals I've walked into where I've known about a better listing half a mile down the road, because the seller doesn't want to tell you that there's a better buy down the neighborhood or in the next new development. They want to sell you the unit that's there, that you're sitting in the show home and that you're looking at. And you may think that the seller's realtor is really charming and really engaging, but the problem is they're there to sell you a house. They're not there necessarily to make sure that you buy the best house possible for you. Another interesting stat was the top reason why home buyers listed as using their realtor was to help them find a home, which again, it's just, you know, when I see these real estate commercials by the boards that is supposedly supposed to highlight what a realtor does, they miss the mark. And it makes me crazy. As a professional realtor for the last 16 years, I think I know a little bit about what the services I provide and why that's so important to my clients. When a board that's supposed to represent me to the public that I'm paying, because we have dues to pay them, can't get it right, it's very frustrating. Because what it does is it sets up the public where they don't really know what to expect from a realtor. It's like, well, you're going to help me find a house. Well, no, yeah, that's part of what we do, but that's just a small part. And 75% of home buyers only interview one agent during their home search. And this is very common for home sellers as well. I always recommend to people that if you don't know a realtor, which is very commonplace, people will ask their friends for a recommendation, or there's somebody, you know, they just don't know a realtor. They may know one from a sign, or, you know, the guy in the bus stop that they always see, but it doesn't mean that they're a great realtor that looks after their clients. I always tell people, get 3 realtors to interview and talk to them about what it is that you want to accomplish. It's like a job interview. And then check the references. And we're going to talk a lot about that tonight, because you've found a great home doesn't mean you found a great realtor. The reason why that's so important is because when you look at the national statistics of how many people are actually disappointed with their experience with the realtor, it's quite high. It's at 86%. So 86% of home sellers and home buyers report a problem with their realtor at some level. And we'll go into what that is as we go along. But that's the reason why realtors have such a poor reputation with home buyers and home sellers, is because people make that assumption that when they found that great property, that a great realtor comes along with it. And nothing can be further from the truth. And again, like I was saying before, the realtor has actually been hired by the seller to represent their interests. So what happens is a home buyer, because you're just doing what most people do, which is you're going to an open house, you're going to a new home builder, and you're meeting with that rep. So you're thinking this realtor is going to look out for your interests. And when they don't, you get upset. And I understand it, because the real estate association, in my mind, haven't made the differentiation for people. They like to leave it up to you. Unfortunately, the buying public doesn't really understand this concept. And I know when I bought my first house, I didn't know. I just got the realtor that was selling the house. And at the end of the day, it cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. And it was a nightmare. That's actually one of the motivations of why I decided to become a realtor. This is what realtors do, is due diligence. It always amazes me, like I was saying earlier, that I think the general public doesn't really understand what a good realtor does and why it's important to have a realtor who has a lot of experience buying and selling homes. I think it's, as I was saying earlier, I think most people think realtors help them find and buy homes. And when you're ready to move, they help you sell, and they take some pictures and they do the marketing, and then they help you with the paperwork. But the number one responsibility of a good realtor who understands what their role is in the process is due diligence on behalf of their client. Let's just make it more tangible. You don't want to purchase a property in 6 months or 2 years from now, find out that there's going to be a monster house being built on your property on your sight lines. You don't want to wake up 6 months from now or a year from now from a notice from your strata informing you that you have to pay a $30,000 assessment fee. These are all messes that I've been asked to fix for other less experienced realtors who do not properly understand what due diligence means and how it applies to taking care of their customers. Another thing about due diligence is going through the paperwork and reading the fine lines and understanding what it is that you're signing. A lot of my clients, they trust me. They know that I've read through the contracts, and so they'll sign. But if you're working with somebody who you really don't know and they're just asking you to sign documents and you're just going along signing and dating, and you're just assuming that they know what they're doing and that they're looking after your own best interests. In your mind as a home buyer, you're thinking all realtors are the same, but let me assure you they're not. When it comes to due diligence and looking out for your best interests as a home buyer or a home seller, you want and you need a real estate agent with a lot of experience buying and selling homes. Because what happens is when you buy and sell a lot of homes and you've been a realtor for a long time, you get to experience everything that can come up. You know what to look for. You know what questions to ask the home seller and the home seller's realtor. And that doesn't come without experience. And what happens is over time, you actually can be proactive. You can start to head off the issues before they become problems for your clients. And trust me, when it comes to either purchasing a home or selling a home, there are tons of things to consider and to stay on top of as a realtor. I want to talk about what are some of the traits of a good realtor. We talked about which I think is the most important, which is due diligence. The second trait I believe to look for in a good realtor is their ability to negotiate. And if you're using a new realtor or somebody who doesn't have a sales background, how good of experience do you think they have in developing their negotiation skills? When it comes to negotiating the best price for you when you're purchasing a home, the realtor you're using needs to know the market. They need to know what you're buying in comparison to the market. They need to know the trends, what's going on, what comparables are. And it's even worse if you don't know your realtor, because trust is so crucial in real estate. And the reason behind this is because what happens is, as a home buyer, when you decide to put an offer on a property, I'm going off to work for you. I'm going to go to an office and I'm going to speak to the other realtor. You need to know that I'm fighting for you to get you the best deal, that I am not working with the other realtor to put the deal together as quickly as possible. Because some realtors go in there and they find out what you're willing to do and they give you away to the other party. And I've had other realtors approach me and say, listen, what can we do to put this deal together? That's not the way that I work. I think one of the reasons why my clients speak so highly of me is because I work on their behalf and I fight for them. And that's a really big difference in attitude between somebody who's working for you and somebody who's working for a paycheck. The other good traits of a good realtor, in my opinion, are you want somebody who's honest and a straight shooter that you can trust. You want someone who puts their client's interest first. Professionalism, no need to say that, but attention to detail. Real estate is a very complicated process that involves lots of moving pieces. You want somebody who's a problem solver, who has a lot of experience and can be proactive. And this is really important. Communicates well and regularly with clients. One of the things that I do is I like to open up the communication with my clients and ask them the questions that they need to be asked. Because a lot of time when you're new to this, you don't know what the process is, and you don't know what you don't know, as the saying goes. What I like to do is I like to ask the questions and get people thinking in the direction that I think that they need to go for their benefit. And it also can be really stressful and very frustrating when you're dealing with an agent who's not communicating with you. I've had that happen, and I've had people who have had some concerns over that. And the reason why I'm bringing up all of this at the beginning of our webinar is because I was alluded to this earlier. They've done a national survey on realtors in Canada, and 86% of all home buyers and home sellers have reported difficulty or confusion when they're either purchasing or selling a home using the services of a realtor. In fact, if you look at recent Gallup polls on realtors and trust and car salesmen and politicians, it's not that good. And so you have to ask yourself, why is it that so many people have such a poor perception of realtors? And I believe it's because of the commission structure. Basically, realtors don't make money unless they buy or sell a house. You're trusting somebody that's going to put your best interest ahead of theirs, and then you're putting a big big bag of gold in front of them. Well, human nature, a lot of time people go for the gold. And so what happens is you get realtors who don't explain contracts properly to their clients. You get clients who feel pressured by their realtor to do something that they don't really want to do. It blew my mind. I actually seen a realtor yelling at his client once. It was just like mind-boggling. I couldn't believe it. I've had where people feel that the realtor did a really poor job in negotiating on their behalf. As I've mentioned on due diligence, this is a big one. Realtors failing to do proper due diligence adequately on a property that their client wants to buy. And like I was saying, this is the biggest thing that you need to be aware of. And understanding closing costs and what to expect every step of the way during the home buying process. I don't think most people really understand how critically important it is also to be able to trust your realtor for the reasons that I just was talking about. Like I was saying, when I'm behind closed doors representing your best interest in price negotiations, you need to know that I'm working in your corner, someone who's working on your behalf. So then the question becomes, what can you do as a home buyer to protect yourself? How do you know who the good 14% of realtors are who genuinely care about their clients and are going to do a good job for you, and who the other 86% are that they're talking about? how do you know? They dress nice, drive a nice car, they've got nice jewelry on, they look successful, so the assumption is they must be good at what they do. Well, the short answer is that before you hire any realtor to help you either buy or sell a home, you should insist on seeing a full page of references. I've got a little clip here from one of my clients here. I'm going to just post for you.
You are trustworthy. We felt that we could trust you 100% because you really had our interests at heart.
You can save yourself a lot of frustration. You can save yourself from having to make those uncomfortable phone calls where you have to ask what the heck is happening. And you can save yourself from feeling powerless, lost time, and most importantly, lost money by just insisting on a full page of references from your realtor. And stick to your guns, because there will be realtors who will kind of shrug you off. And I always tell people, listen, if they've been in the business for a long time and they're selling homes and they're buying homes on behalf of their clients, they're helping them, purchase homes, they should have references. They should have clients who are willing to, raise their hand and say, listen, my realtor is a good realtor and I had a great experience with them, and you should be able to expect the same thing. I just wanted to cover all of that stuff. Now I want to get to why you're probably here, which is the big question: is now the right time to buy or not? The answer is a resounding yes. And I know it's really confusing time because there's so many doomsayers, but what's happening in the market is completely opposite. And I covered that a lot in my last Facebook Live about why what's happening right now is happening. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Core reason is there's not enough inventory. It's basic economics, supply and demand. As long as you have this crisis, and I call it a crisis because there's people paying $2,500 a month rent, which is crazy to me when you could own. $2,500 a month is $30,000 a year that you're giving away to someone else to help them pay their mortgage on the property that you're living in. And over 5 years, that's $150,000 that's just gone. And for me, I'm a big advocate of people figuring it out on how to purchase a property. I even have a PDF that I give out on how to save $20,000 a year. If you go back to my last Facebook Live, I go into great detail on why I think over the next 10 to 20 years, home prices are just going to continue to go up and up and up. You think things are expensive now? Well, I can take you back to 10 years ago when everybody thought it was expensive and the bubble was going to burst. And it was every year I would read comments in the paper, I would read comments online, the bubble's going to burst. Well, they've been saying that for 10, 15 years. The other reason that directly applies to this, which is the supply, is that Canada wants to increase their population from 38 million to 100 million. And where do you think all those people are going to live? They're not going to live in your basement, that's for sure. You're going from 38 million, and we already have a housing crisis where vacancy rates for renters is at 0.5%, which is crazy. Normal rate is 4.5%. And trying to buy a new home during a pandemic and the market's on fire, and you want to increase the population up to 100 million. Sometimes I have to wonder what the thought process is, because we're just going to get poor, because a major part of your living expenses is how much it costs to live in your home. And if the majority of your population can't afford to buy a home and the rents are $2,500 a month, $3,000 a month, you've got a problem. What I want to do is I want to talk about one of the other reasons why we're experiencing such a boom on home buyers buying right now is the interest rates. The interest rates have never been this low. I've seen some mortgage companies that are, and this one I've just put up on the screen for you, they're offering 1.54% at a variable rate. That's insane. That's almost free money. Essentially, if you go 10 years ago, where the interest rates were 5, 6, 7, 8%, when you paid your mortgage payment and say it was $2,000, there'd be $1,500 went to interest and $500 that went to principal. When you're at 1.54%, what happens is now that $2,000 payment is still the same, but $1,000 is going to your principal and $1,000 is going to interest. That is huge. I don't think a lot of people think of it in that way, but it is huge. Plus, we have a 5% down program. So this program has been around for a very long time, and it's to help first-time buyers again, and it's been tweaked a bit now. If you have a property that you want to purchase and it's under $500,000, all you need is a 5% down payment. And anything over $500,000, you need 10%. If it's $600,000, you would pay 5% on the first $500,000, and on the remaining $100,000, you would pay 10% on that. And then if it gets up to $1 million, it's actually 20%, or if you're an investor, it's 20%. Now, this is the exciting one. This is the federal program. It was introduced in March of 2019, and the federal government announced an incentive program to further help first-time home buyers, which, if you think about it, has just led to the fact that we still have the supply problem, because what the federal government is doing is they're lowering their interest rates, so making it really easy to buy, and then they're offering another incentive program, which even makes more buyers. And the program is called the First Home Buyer Incentive Program. It's offered through CMHC, and it provides an interest-free loan to first-time home buyers up to 5% of the purchase price on existing homes and 10% on new homes. And they do have some restrictions in place. The maximum purchase price is limited to $560,000, and the maximum family income is restricted to about $120,000. You must have 5% of your down payment. There's no interest charged on the money borrowed, and it has to be paid back either when you sell your home or within 25 years. So it's a pretty good deal. The government is essentially giving you this money that you can use interest-free. And what happens is the government's taking an equity stake in your home purchase. So what that means is if you decide to sell the home, say 10 years from now, and it went up 15%, you would pay 15% on that money that you borrowed from the government. So if the home goes up, they get to make a little bit of extra money. The home goes down, actually the reverse happens. You still pay back what you owe them, but you don't have to pay anything on top of that. And I just want to thank John Charbonneau. Big shout out. He's my mortgage broker guy. I have three gentlemen that I use, but John's, as you can see by his Google references here, he's quite well liked by his clients. He does a really good job. And like me, he's mobile. His number, if you want to contact him, is 604-818-2840, or I've got the email address on there. Thing is I always tell people the first place to start is to get your financing in place. So a mortgage broker, what they do is they go to all the different banks and they try and find you the best deal and the best rate. Next, we have the GST and the HST rebate program for when you purchase a new home. It is a sliding scale. Like most of these programs, it really depends on the home purchase price. In this example here that I've got up on the board, let's just see. In this example, I've used a purchase price of $400,000, where if you purchased a home for $400,000, the rebate would be about $3,150 against the tax that you would be paying. So it's going to save you, a few $1,000s. And again, the top end to qualify for this rebate is $450,000. And quite honestly, between you and I, when you look at these programs, they're designed with Canada in mind, where the prices of homes are so much cheaper than in Vancouver and the Lower Mainland. A lot of these programs don't do a lot for buyers in the Lower Mainland unless you're buying in Abbotsford or Chilliwack. The next government program that I want to tell you about is the property transfer tax exemption. If you're a first-time buyer and the purchase price is below $500,000, you can exempt from paying the property transfer tax, which is a tax from the provincial government, And then there's a very short window up to about $525,000 where it maxes out. And there's a sliding scale on this as well. Basically, the way the tax is calculated is it's 1% of the first $200,000, so that would be $2,000, and 2% of the remainder. So if you bought a $500,000 house, the tax that you would be paying is about $8,000. Unless you're a first-time buyer, then you would have the exemption for that $8,000, which is quite a lot of money if you ask me. You know, people are always complaining about realtor commissions, but I tell you, when it comes to the governments and this property transfer tax, I feel like the government really gets a free pass on this one, because think about it. Every home that's sold, they get $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. It is huge money. Definitely, I think the government doesn't want to pass up on that. The home buyer's plan, which allows you to borrow about $35,000 from your RSP to help you with a down payment. And basically, you get 15 years to repay it back. So you don't have to worry about interest. You don't have to worry about losing your RSP. The best thing to do for that is to speak to your lender, and they can tell you how that works. Another program that we have is that you can claim up to $5,000 of your purchase price against your incomes. It is a modest savings, but it's $750 in tax savings is about what it works out to. $750 is $750. Now, for the next slide, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go over the costs of what it actually would cost you if you were to purchase a $500,000 home. The first part is, as a home buyer, you don't have to pay for the services of a realtor. So I always tell people, if you don't have to pay for the services of a realtor, why not use a good one? You may as well. You know, you have a choice. You can use someone who's fresh out of school or somebody who you don't really know, or you can use a realtor that's been doing it for a long time and can help you with the due diligence that I was telling you about. So when we look at the costs, and I'm going to use a $500,000 home as an example, the property transfer tax, if you're not a first-time buyer, will be about $8,000. The way property taxes are calculated is that, say you have a $500,000 single-family home, property taxes range from about $3,500 to about $4,000, and this is very city-specific. So I'm just using this as a very general number. And let's just say what the city does is they say, okay, we send out our tax assessments in July of every year. So July, that's your 6 months. 6 months is January to June, and then July to December. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at your move-in date, and they're going to split that $4,000, and say you went right in the middle of the year in June. They're going to say the buyer's going to pay $2,000, and the seller's going to pay $2,000. And the seller may have paid the property taxes for that year. It really depends on the date. So this is $2,000 that you need to be aware of, because you may need to find that money. And again, it really is specific on your situation when you're buying. And so again, I just want you to be aware of this in case this comes up. The home inspection, depending on what you buy, but let's use this example of $500,000 home, is usually about $500. That's something that I do cover for my clients. It's my way of saying thank you. If you're buying new, you need to pay the GST, which is 5%, which on a $500,000 house is $25,000. Again, if you're a new buyer, you can get the exemption for that, but there is some criteria around that. And then your notary public or your lawyer is going to be around $1,200. There's moving costs that you have to worry about, but you know, I'm not going to get into all the little things, but these are the big ones that I think that you need to worry about. The next question that I get from a lot of people is, what type of home should you buy? The fact of the matter is, single-family homes are the best investment, but when you live in the Lower Mainland, a lot of time they're unaffordable. Chilliwack is probably the last place where you can actually afford a home if that's what you want to purchase. But if you live in Surrey or Langley or Coquitlam or Vancouver, you're talking $1 million more often than not, where you need a 20% down payment. Not a lot of people have $200,000 sitting in the bank. My advice to new home buyers is to buy a condo or a townhouse just to get into the market and use it as a stepping stone so you're not wasting that $150,000 that we were talking about earlier on rent. And in 5 to 10 years, you can always sell your home, the condo or the townhome, to help you have the money to get into the single family home. Because I tell you, the market is going up and it always will go up. Instead of sitting on the sidelines and continuing to rent where you're just seeing the prices going up and going, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. Well, you know what? Next year and in 2 years, it's just going to be so much worse. And what happens is you get in this crunch because there's hardly any rentals available. I've had people talk to me about the rental situation. It is not fun. The nice thing about home ownership is you don't have to worry about that. And of course, lastly, I want to discuss the home buying process with you. And this is just a general overview to give you an idea of kind of what happens. My next Facebook Live will actually be covering all the facets on selling a home, the costs, the ins and outs, and the do's and the don'ts. As far as buying a home, though, I generally recommend that people get their financial house in order about 6 months in advance of actually purchasing a home. Try and get your credit cards paid off if you can. That really helps you a lot in getting a better interest rate. I'm not sure that people sometimes really understand. When you clean up all your finances, your FICO score goes up, and then the interest rate that the bank will offer you is so much better. And because the interest rate is better and it's lower, then your payments are going to be lower. It's going to save you thousands and thousands of dollars over that 25 years that your loan's going to be open for your mortgage. And so we get your financing in place. And what happens after that is we start looking for homes. I've got tools in place for you to look for homes on your own. You know, it's so funny when people start looking for homes, they get so excited. You know, they're looking in the morning, they're looking on their breaks from work, they're looking when they get home, and I'll be looking for you as well. And like I said, you know, one of the things about working with a realtor who has a lot of experiences, knowledge, is that I can find homes that perhaps you haven't seen. Once we find a home that you like and we agree to the terms of the sale, there's a period of time, usually 7 to 10 days, and it's called the subject removal period. And during that 7 to 10 days, that's the time that we as buyers do our due diligence. If it's a townhouse or a condo, we need time to review the strata minutes and the engineering reports. We need to get final approval on our financing, and we need to get a home inspection done, which, as I was telling you earlier, I pay for as a way of saying thank you to my clients. And just a heads up, during that 7 to 10 days, I always assure my clients that during the subject removal time, if you change your mind on moving forward on the purchase of the home, we can walk away at any time. The deposit money, usually it's about 5% that the sellers ask for, is paid on subject removal, not on the offer acceptance date. After subjects are removed and you're 100% sure that you want to move forward with the sale, it's then that you can arrange for your notary or your lawyer to help you with conveyancing, and you can at that time arrange for moving and getting your utilities set up and all those other things that you need to do. It can be a really exciting time when you're purchasing a home, and it can be really stressful, especially during the offer process, because people are always, you know, they go in and of course they want to go in a little bit lower, but they want to buy the home and they're worried if their seller's going to accept it or not. It can be a very emotional time. It's like a roller coaster. But I want you to remember that I'm always just one email or phone call away. All right, while we're here, I also want to talk to you about a tool that I have. It's called Market Insight. And Market Insight is this amazing free tool that I want you to know about that up until recently has only been available to realtors. Market Insight is a comprehensive real estate reporting tool that gives you up-to-date MLS sold data. The thing about sold data is, like I said, up until recently, home buyers and home sellers didn't have access to this information. You had to go through a realtor. With this tool, you get up-to-date information on market trends, forecasts, sold homes. So you can look at a neighborhood and you can see what the homes are actually selling for that are comparable to the homes that you're interested in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up the address right there for you. And basically, if you go to ilovethelowermainland.ca/housing market insights, you'll be able to download this tool. And what you can do is you can pick the neighborhood that you want, you can pick the type of home that you want, and it will give you all of the stats and all the data. This particular infographic that you're seeing right now, it shows you how much months of inventory is on the market for 4-bedroom homes. Tells you how many are active on the MLS and how many have sold. We've got about a 1-to-1 ratio. It's very close. That's how you can tell how active the market is. And it will tell you right now that it's a seller's market. Besides that, you get the latest market updates with home selling and home buying stats. And it helps you answer the question whether you're in a home buyer or home seller's market, because that's going to influence how we're going to negotiate. We negotiate differently depending on what kind of market we're in. And of course, you want to know days on market for active and sold homes. You want to know the percentage of homes that are selling over the list price. And with this report, you get a complete report on all active and sold homes in your selected area. So either in the Lower Mainland or Fraser Valley, you can just put in your city and it will tell you. It's really an amazing service. And then lastly, I want to tell you about the rebates. If you decide to use my service as a real estate agent, what I will do is I will pay for your home inspection. Most realtors will give you a nice little fruit basket, which is nice, or they'll give you like $100 or $150 gift certificate to your favorite restaurant. But what I do is I know that buying a home can be expensive for a lot of home buyers. I actually up the ante, and I've always done this. I've always paid for people's home inspections. Also, I have a program for home seller. Remember at the beginning of the webinar, I'd mentioned that 33% of all home buyers are first-time home buyers. Well, that leaves a lot of people who already own a home and are looking to sell and buy. So if you're looking to sell and your home is worth over $400,000, I have a $750 rebate for you. If it's under $400,000, it's only $250. And if you're buying and selling, you can use both rebates. If you're selling, you get the seller's rebate for $750. And if you're buying, you get the $500 rebate for the home inspection. It's something that I do for my clients. It's my way of saying thank you for using my services. And that's the webinar for today. That's everything I think you should know about purchasing a home in the Lower Mainland. If you have any questions and you're watching this webinar and it's been recorded for you, please feel free to send me a message on Facebook, or you can just send me a message to my email address, which is kevin.boyle@telus.net, or you can give me a call at 778-868-5753. Thank you for popping by. It was awesome getting to talk to you all. And again, if you have any home buying questions specifically, please send me a message on Facebook and I'll get right back to you. Thank you very much. Good night.